Welcome back to the Running Wine Mom podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Selinsky, aka the Running Wine Mom. Joining us today are Gabrielle and Tyler, the dynamic duo behind the Bump Date app, a revolutionary platform that goes beyond traditional pregnancy trackers to create a private social network for friends and family. Born out of a desire to bridge the gap between technology and connection, Gabrielle and Tyler's journey from conception to creation is nothing short of remarkable. In a world where the journey to parenthood can be filled with uncertainty and isolation, the Bump Date app offers a beacon of support and community. From sharing important milestones to curating personalized lists of must-have products, the app is redefining how we support and celebrate the ones we love. Without further ado, let's raise a glass to friendship, family, and the power of technology to bring us closer together. Welcome to the Running Wine Mom podcast. Hi, Gabrielle and Tyler. How are you guys today?
Hi, we're
We're
great. Thank
good.
you.
We're so happy to be here.
Yay, cheers. I'm still not drinking my wine, but I have my wine cup here because
I'm going back and forth.
there we go. I love it.
I also have my Stanley because I'm breastfeeding a 7-month-old baby and I'm just constantly dehydrated.
Constantly just needing the water, of course.
Trying.
I feel like those days I had one like in every single room, just jars of water for me
Yeah.
to finish. So to start each episode, we have our wine in one of the week segment. This is where we share our favorite bottle of wine, vent about something that has been bothering us, and celebrate our recent victories. So grab a glass, take a deep breath, and let's get started. So ladies, let's who wants to start with their WINE of the week?
I'll start.
Okay.
I'm currently the bigger drinker. So I am on a Sauvignon Blanc kick. I like dry white, not too sweet, citrusy. So the Machua or any New Zealand kind is currently my favorite. Love a screw top. And alternative would be a dirty martini. I like that
Oh.
too.
That is like I love New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc is definitely one of my favorite. And then Dirty Martini with blue cheese stuffed olives is my
I love
go-to for a nice cocktail.
I love the blue cheese, and I also love the Castelvetrano. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but they're like the small little green olives that are really
Mm,
hard. They're so
hmm
good.
Ooh, yum.
Yeah.
And Tyler, what about you when you're not drinking
Um,
water?
yeah, I'm definitely not in my drinking phase of my life right now, but I like a good glass of red wine or two or three. I keep trying to taste Gabrielle's dirty martinis when we're out and cannot get into it. And she keeps saying, like, you keep trying it every time, but I know you're not gonna like it. Tastes like it's not for me.
So, Gabrielle, what is your WHINE of the week?
WHINE. Okay, I'm a little humiliated to say, but my unread junk emails are through the roof. And I was never like that before kids. C before children. I keep telling myself today will be the day I will go through all of them, but I just still haven't done it. And this week's number hit like an all-time high. And I know every time my husband sees my phone, he's just judging the hell out of me. So it makes me feel like crap. And it's on my list of things to do to make myself feel good. And I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Okay, so what is your win of the week?
Win of the week, totally unrelated to motherhood. I learned something new and it just felt really good. We live on a farm and I learned how to drive a tractor and
Ooh.
and I mowed all of our meadows down so they can freshly grow again for the year. And I just enjoyed it so much. It was so peaceful. I listened to music and really enjoyed that little bit of alone time. And I I just haven't like really learned something new like that in a long time. It was really cool.
That's awesome. That's something that I feel like wanted to do, but I'm like I would probably like it for like a couple tries and then I'm like never mind.
No, I don't know if I'm like ready to, you know,
Commit to it.
yeah, to be the person who cuts the lawn every day, but every
But if you
week.
need some sanity moments, then that would be the perfect
Yeah,
opportunity for you.
little zen. It was
Yeah,
great.
awesome. So Tyler, what's your WHINE of the week?
Um, our 7-month-old son keeps waking up in the night crying. And if you remember, like, even if he just cries for like a minute or 5 minutes, to you, it feels much longer than that.
Hmm.
It really interrupts your sleep, and you're like, do I go in? Do I not? Do I go feed him? Because I just want to sleep longer. And maybe if I feed him at 1 a.m., then he won't wake up at 5 a.m. And it's just like going down the rabbit hole in your head when you know that the right thing to do is just not go in there at all.
But it's so hard.
Like, I know that, but I don't know that sometimes. So we're working through that right now. That's fun.
Yeah. I used to set so many timers because I really felt
Yeah.
like I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, it's been 45 seconds. I feel like it's been 5
Yes.
minutes. This
It's
is."
really, I think it's because I read somewhere when we hear our babies cry, it like ignites our fight or flight response.
Mhm.
And for us, it's like, I got to do something, you know?
Mhm.
And my brain's telling me one thing, but like my adrenaline and my body is telling me another thing, you know? And um, I do know better than to not go in there, but I can convince myself of anything when I'm like really tired at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. Yeah.
Well, so what is your win of the week?
My win of the week is that I actually joined a gym this week. It's like a little boutique fitness studio um, that I've been putting off doing that or anything for myself for a while. And like I said, my son is going to be 7 months old on Monday. And I was taking my older son to karate the other day. We got there really early. We like got some snacks, still had like 30 minutes to kill. And I had noticed this little boutique studio across the street from his karate place. And it's like, has like a sheer thing on it so you can't look inside, and on the door it just says like by appointment only. And I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm opening the door. And like I have my little son in his little karate outfit, and I was like, I'm just like, if I interrupt something, I'll just like step back out. So I just like opened the door and peeked my head in, and I was like, hello, you know, like, is it okay if I come in? I just like want to ask you a few questions. And I went in, and she was like, I actually have 5 minutes. What's up? And I just like dumped everything on her. I was like, well, I had 2 kids in the last 3 years, like, you know, threw everything at her, and she was awesome. I had an intro session with her, and now we're going to get started next week. And it's like only 1 or 2 people in there at a time, female only, like women health focused place, which seems good for me. So I'm optimistic.
Awesome. And so important to do for yourself. And especially at this point, I mean, even when they're out of seven, a little bit older, it's just crazy all the time. And I feel like working out is something for me that is like consistent, that keeps me in control. And you kind of feel like yourself for however long that time
Hmm.
period may be.
Yeah, I definitely need some of that.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome. So I always like to ask my guests, what is one struggle you've overcome leading to where you are now? And what is one thing that you are most proud of in your life? So, Gabrielle, do you want to start with those?
Sure. On the struggle front, overcoming it, I would say, I think I have to say career changes. I've had quite a few. I feel like it's similar to dating, as crazy as that sound. Like when it's awful, it's really awful. But when you find the one, it's the best thing in the world. And I jumped from the clothing, fashion design industry to retail to web development to tech education, and then to bump date now, building a tech solution for pregnant women in their support circles. So it's been a roller coaster, and it's hard to feel like you're starting over. But in reality, each change empowered me to take on a new, larger challenge. And I think similar to dating, the person you left behind after a breakup, it wasn't for nothing. They served a great purpose at a time in your life and taught you lessons that you'll take into your next relationship. You learn things about yourself and make, better decisions moving forward. But yeah, definitely have had to, work through that. And then something that I'm most proud of in my life, so it sounds cliche, but I have to say being a mom, it's it's the proudest I've ever been about anything, and it feels like the absolute hardest work in the universe and yet the most rewarding. Like, never mind the career things or school or any kind of challenge outside of it. I just feel like it compares in no way. It is definitely the hardest but most rewarding.
Yeah, and I always say with parenthood, it's so interesting that like, you go to school for all these different things and no one gives you a rule book for parenthood and you're like, how do I just went to school for all these different careers and learned and trained and then you just send me home with a baby with like nothing, just like a little pamphlet.
I remember I had a colleague years ago, and he was hilarious. He was like, that's exactly what he said. He was like, "You want me to take this baby home?" And they're like, "It's yours. Like, it's time." Like, his wife just gave birth, and he was like, "They're just letting us leave with the baby. We're just walking out." He's like, "We don't know what we're doing. We've never done this before." And it's like, yeah, here's your brochure and good luck. See you later. Google anything you can't figure out, and that's that. But, I guess I kind of took for granted, or I don't know, maybe I was just naive about that, is that I grew up around kids so much that I didn't think much of it. I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be fine." And, but yeah, it's just when it's yours, there's never you're never off, ever.
Mm-mm.
Even if you have a sitter or something, you're still keyed in constantly. And once they are in this world, like there's just it's like an arm for you. It's just another extension and it never, it's always there. So yeah, it's just a part of you. So it's really
Yeah.
crazy. Nobody, I feel like, could get you to understand that until it
Like,
happens. It
so Tyler, what do you think one struggle you've overcome leading to where you are now and one thing that you are most proud of in your life?
Um, I think this is a great question. I actually worked in a hospital setting for like over 10 years, in New York City and in Philadelphia, after I got my master's degree. And I was always working with patients, very close with patients in the hospital. I worked with cancer patients who were going through leukemia, chemotherapies, and clinical trials. And I worked in a cancer treatment center. And then once the pandemic hit, my particular job, since I wasn't a clinical person, I was remote. I got pregnant during that time. And it kind of just like changed that. I didn't even see a patient for like a year. I got pregnant, and just everything about me and my job there and everything felt really, really different. And I always felt really fulfilled by the work that I was doing. And once everything changed, I felt like I wasn't really being that effective or as effective as I could be. And it was kind of hard to like re-find your place again. So leaving that job was a challenge, but being able to do this work with Gabrielle and work on Bump Date and still work towards helping people feel better. A huge goal of Bump Date is to help improve women's and maternal mental health when they're pregnant and postpartum by helping them get connected to their village. And we believe very strongly, and we hope that our app can really help people in that capacity. So I'm very happy to, still be using that experience that I have in this new role and for our brand.
I can totally relate to that. Whereas I had with teaching, you have so much passion, your only focus is that, and then you have these babies, and you're like,
Yeah.
how, you want to juggle everything, but your top priority is your family. So whatever it is that makes your family first, and then work does come second. And not for everybody, but for a lot of people it does. And for me, it definitely
Yep.
switched. So everything that you're saying, I can totally relate to. And what is one thing you're most proud of in your life?
I agree with Gabrielle is being a mom and just, being able to create and make my own little family. When I was younger, I definitely had no idea. And by younger, I mean like probably the day before my first son was born. Just had no idea like how fulfilling it would be and how fulfilling it can be and is. I just couldn't possibly fathom
Hmm.
that, obviously. And there's no better feeling. I feel like I was just like floating in the wind before, and thought things that weren't important were so important. And now I'm like, I couldn't even care less about some of those things because my focus and my happiness in life is focused on my family and obviously my immediate family, but also Gabrielle is my sister-in-law who's married to my brother and has two kids who I feel like are also my kids, and just being like so immersed in our families is really just the absolute best thing.
Yeah, and I love that about you guys, which I didn't mention in the beginning, that you guys are sister-in-laws, which would have probably come up later, but I just think that's so cool that you guys have found, like, everyone wants their friends to be family, and you
Hmm.
guys kind of are that perfect combination of it, and business partners, which is even better. So the Running Wine Mom, we start with fitness. So Tyler, you just said you joined a gym, but what's your favorite way to stay active?
Well, I did already admit that I'm not active, and that I hope to be active once I really get going in this new fitness studio. But yeah, I'm definitely stuck in that like postpartum routine of putting myself last. The only fitness activities I would say I'm doing are like squatting to pick up a toy while holding my baby, or chasing my 3-year-old, almost 3-year-old, down the street when he's trying to literally run away from me. So that
What
would say
about
that's
Like,
like
what about when you were pregnant?
squatting and sprinting for
Both
me.
both pregnancies, you prioritized your fitness so well, even when you didn't want to. Tyler and I were on Zoom fitness classes together. She's leaving all of that out. It's just tough right now because you're in the postpartum haze, but
Mhm.
you definitely did such a great job while you were
I
pregnant with
actually
your
forgot about all of that, but yeah, Gabrielle and I did work out together twice a week with a trainer during my whole pregnancy. I forgot about that, but I definitely, that was 7 months ago now, and I haven't done anything. So
listen, you're doing
you
functional
know, I
fitness
blocked
right
that out
now.
for me.
And how about you for you, Gabrielle?
This actually is happening at the perfect time because I just got back on the wagon of fitness, which is
There
great.
you go.
But yeah, as of a few months ago, Burn Boot Camp, I don't know if you've heard of it. There's like a
Hmm.
few kind of all scattered throughout the US, but
Wait, which one do you go to? Do you
I
go
go
to
to
the
Hanes.
Hainesport?
Yeah, I'm
So,
obsessed with sport.
so you definitely know my coworker, Steph Demara. She's a trainer. She does at Burn and at Mount Laurel, or
I'm
at Hainesport
sure.
and Mount
Well,
Laurel.
I normally have Dawn and Sandy, but
Okay.
Steph, does she I just met a woman at the park the other day that had a burn boot camp backpack, and she was like, "Wait, which burn do you go to?" And she does the marketing for Mount Laurel, um,
Okay.
Haddon, and one other. Apparently, there's like 3 all owned by the same person, and Hainesport
Yeah.
used to also be owned by them, but Sandy bought it. So,
Hmm.
um, Steph, I'm sure if I saw
She's
her, I would recognize her.
Yeah. I'll have to send you a picture of her, but
Yeah.
she used to be at Hainesport mostly, but now she's mostly at Mount Laurel, but she does train at Hainesport sometimes.
I
But
used to
yeah.
go, like, back in 2017, like, when they first opened, and I was, like,
Okay.
one of those before kids, 5:15, before I used
Hmm.
to commute to the city and out to the main line for work, and I would go to the 5:15 class, and I was, like, nuts, and Mount Laurel would always, like, kick my butt even more,
Yeah.
but I loved it, and then, got married, fell off the wagon, was focused on, like, like, making babies and
Yeah.
not going to the gym at 5:15. Um, and yeah, but no, I finally my daughter is, like was, like, 1.5, she'll be 2 in June, and a couple months ago, finally walked back in the door, and kind of like Tyler, I actually just wrote a blog post about this because, like, it's like cathartic for me to let out my feelings about stuff that goes on through pregnancy and motherhood and all of that sometimes when it just feels like so heavy. But I had like tears in my eyes when I opened the door because it was so hard for me. I feel like we have a long driveway and I was doing daily runs for like a month here and there. It would be like my commitment, like, oh, I'll do a mile a day. And that it was like nothing crazy, not for time, just to get it done. And it was like, all right, that's like my baby step. But I knew that the most effective thing for me would be to get back at burn. And I like dabbled with Pilates classes and some other things, but I just knew that burn was like my ride or die, and it would transform my body right back to where I wanted to be, and I'd be at my healthy self again. But that motivation really was not there. Like it wasn't like I used to be where I wanted it so badly.
Hmm.
And I was like so motivated by the body results and all of that. Now I'm like a different person, and I'm like, I know it's going to make me feel better inside. I know I'm going to be happier, but just getting through that door was so hard. And yeah, I like opened the door. I was like, hi, I'm here. Like I wanted to like tell them my story, and they're just like, okay, here are the options. Here's the
Yeah.
but
Well, it's funny that like the way that you kind of word it like that, because I felt like when I had my daughter, I was like, new moms should be able to wear like a sign on their back that says like, I just had a baby. I am like X amount, postpartum or whatever, because I just feel like it would give everyone so much more grace. And then it gives you more confidence, even if you're like waiting in line somewhere. It's like, let this poor woman go. She's probably been up all night. Like,
Yeah.
I feel
You should
that
just say
now.
like, be nice to me.
yeah, yeah. I have
Um,
a, X amount of month
understood.
old child.
Willing to accept help in
Yeah.
any form.
Anymore.
Oh
It's
my
like the
gosh.
parking spots, like in the front, or now grocery
Yeah.
pickup. I'm like, what a blessing. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Hmm.
Like we don't have to go in to the store with our children and risk the
Yeah,
possible psychoticness. Like what a freaking blessing. But yeah, no,
I
for
know.
Burn, I feel like they have childcare too. And
Mhm.
I have been bringing my kids and they love it. And I see other moms come in there like battered with like kids in pajamas, kids with like superhero outfits on, like one shoe, like messed up hair. They're dragging their blankie. I'm like, this is my place.
Yes, you're like that's what every time I bring my kids to our kids club to the gym I belong to, I'm like, I'm sorry, this is how they are. Like they're in their pajamas still, like they're not dressed to impress anyone. They're like, whatever, it's fine. So let's talk a little bit about your family. So Gabrielle, do you want to tell us a little bit about what your family life is like?
Sure, they're the best. My hubby is my number one. He's the ultimate partner. Holden is 3 now. I call him a three-nager. He's going through a lot. But he is the cutest little guy, and oh, he's the I just I don't know, when, like, you're asked about it, it's, like, crazy. You just wanna, like, gush about your own kid, but then you also wanna keep it balanced and, like, tell you that they're also a little nuts sometimes. Um, and then I have a daughter named Scout. She's 1.5, or she'll be 2 in, June, and I think naturally she's a total bruiser because 'cause she's got a big brother, and, yeah, we recently nicknamed her Icebox from the Little Giants,
Love
and
that.
yeah, and then Gilbert, we have a golden retriever who's really the real MVP of the family because he eats up all the food that falls on the floor. He's like the kid's best friend. He chases them around the house and really is like a babysitter for us. He's awesome. And then I well, I don't know if this counts, but we just got 9 chickens too, so they're
That counts. They're part of your
they help
family.
too. I just given myself more jobs, but they're
Oh my gosh,
awesome. Kids love them.
that's crazy.
But yeah, that's my crew.
All right, so Tyler, why don't you tell us about your family?
Okay. I have been with my husband for like 15 something years. I met him in college. He was in the same fraternity as my brother, who is Gabrielle's great hubby, who I actually think is super annoying, but to each his own. But we've been married for 5 years. We have 2 kids. I think we've been married for 5 years. Have we been married for 5 years? I don't know. Anyways, we have 2 kids. One is about to be 3. One is about 7 months. We have a crazy dog and a fish named Charlie.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give other parents? What's one piece of advice that you would give other parents?
For me, make friends with other people who have children. I actually always say that like I'm so happy that Gabrielle and my brother had kids before me because they had to like deal with all the stuff, like figure out which products were great, like what things like have like or her kid would have a temper tantrum and then 4 months later mine was like right on cue or like her kid stopped eating like vegetables and then mine was just like right there. So like I basically have like a mirror ball into the future and that's amazing. But seriously, all of my friends who have kids, I would not be any good at momming or parenting or cooking food or potty training or any of that stuff if I didn't have friends to like, you know, throw things, ideas back and forth and say, how did you handle this? What did you do? Is it really dumb that I'm doing this thing? Like, you know, and just sharing all my highs and lows with those people that are going through it too or recently went through it keeps me sane. I would
Yeah.
recommend, you know, try to reach out, try to go to parks and meet other moms, or when your kids start school or daycare, whatever it is, like linger a little and hold a door for somebody and try to somehow put yourself out there because it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I always tell anyone, I always try to help newer moms because I'm like, if I wouldn't survive without the moms who were before
Mhm.
me, I feel like, and it was just such, I mean, it's the only way I feel like to survive because again, we don't get that rule book that we need to follow. How about for you, Gabrielle?
I would say that everything is temporary. It helps you get through remembering that helps you get through the hardest of times and it helps you appreciate the best of times. I feel like I'm a broken record because really do say that all the time. Everything is temporary, but it's like I remember like the bleeding nipples and the crying baby and like I mean even one of like my darkest times was my daughter had RSV when she was 2 weeks old, and we had our 18-month-old at home, and he it was like the hardest time in my life. I'm like,
Hmm.
she was in the hospital for 3 days. Tyler's dad actually was in the hospital at the same time with a big scare, and it was just like such a tough time. And I remember like just constantly reminding myself that this is temporary, it's going to pass, and then it's when then there's like the joyous times too where I'm like, "Oh my god, she's like my little newborn," and even like my son or anything, I'm like, "Your hands are never going to be as tiny
I
and adorable and cute as they are today because tomorrow you'll be one day older." And it just like it's a balance. You don't wanna make yourself feel guilty for not ever appreciating it enough or wishing time away or any of that, but just the general concept that everything is temporary, I think is so important for parents to remember, or else you can just get in that trap of feeling the guilt or wishing the time away, and
Mhm.
I don't think it's a good way to be. I try so much to, like, always be, like, a silver lining type person and always think about, like, I love this like trend that's happening on Instagram right now where it's like instead of saying I have to do this, you say I get to do this.
Mhm.
And I try to practice that all the time. And I'm like, even on the hardest days, like my 3-year-old's not going to sleep, or he's been waking up throughout the night for over a year and a half. It's and you know what? It's like I get to put him back to sleep. And I feel lucky when I say it like that because I'm
Mhm.
like, you know what? It's really not that bad. And one day he is going to sleep through the night. And I'm probably going to, in the weirdest way, miss having to tuck him back in. So,
Mhm. Yeah, no, and I think everything is temporary is so much better than saying it goes by so quickly. So, like enjoy every moment of it.
that
Like
shit stresses me out.
I know. And well, I remember with Willow though, with my oldest, it was like people like it goes so quickly, like just enjoy every moment. And I'm like, this is going by so slow right
Mhm.
now. The first like 12 weeks, I'm like, I don't even see a light anywhere at the end of this tunnel.
Mhm.
Like this is gonna be like this forever. And then, it in retrospect, I guess it was a quick time in my life, 12 weeks or whatever, the fourth trimester is. And but saying that it's temporary, I feel like is so much of a better like spin on it. 'Cause it's like it
Mhm.
just won't be like this forever. Just so whatever's happening now, just know maybe tomorrow it won't be that way, or maybe, like you said, in a couple weeks it won't be that way. So I love that. Very
Yeah,
good.
no, your point is dead on. I that enjoy every second, it goes by so fast. It's like, don't remind me that I'm gonna blink and tomorrow my son's
I
going to college. Like, I don't
Yeah.
wanna think about that. Right now, I just wanna, like, soak up the fact that he still has a tiny bit of baby chub left on his, like, thigh that I'm holding on to, and, like, that's that.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing on that I've seen on social media is like, they say you only get 18 summers with your kids, but then there's like the other side of it though, and they're like, and then it's like the adult like us with our kids and with the grandparents, and it's like, oh, well, this is only like I'm, whatever, however many years old, and we're still spending summers with my parents. And I'm like, yeah,
We need
that's
to Tyler and I need to make that video because literally,
Mhm.
well, her more than me. I mean, I'm at my mom's house a lot. They actually like moved right behind me. So yeah, all the time.
yeah,
But
yeah.
um Tyler is at her mom's house all the time, and we are literally we spend summers together, everything. So it's like the stress of pressure of
Hmm.
parents feeling like, "Oh my god, I have to make this summer so great." And it's like, I won't lie, like I watched that video and that stressed me out, and I felt like,
Yeah.
am I doing enough? And there is
Hmm.
like this stressful thing about like comparison when it comes to, I don't know, just like be parenthood and
Hmm.
everything. You look at other kids, other parents, and it's like in the illusioned world of social media, it's really hard to recognize when you see a beautiful thing or a message, like putting it into perspective and say,
Hmm.
"Oh, this is just a peephole into someone's life." It's also chaos because you're not seeing the chaos. So all you're seeing is this quick clip that is maybe giving you a bit of envy uh, or guilt or whatever it is, ugliness, and it's like it's hard to keep that part of us in check because, you just gotta like, there's a part that like Tyler mentioned of like that village and how important those other moms are. It's like the realness
Hmm.
of that. It's like checking in and having those honest conversations and not getting caught up in the illusion of what it's like it
Hmm.
ideally looks like.
Yeah, no, the social media is very very different than the everyday for anybody. Like no matter how perfect I feel like your life it cannot be, you know, right now I'm looking at toys over there behind the computer. Oh, that needs to get cleaned up. Oh, this is a mess or whatever. And the day was nice. It was good. The kids were fine. But you might just post like a happy picture of them today. And then there's all these other things, all these other happy moments, but all these other stressful moments but everybody sees one moment and they're like, wow, her whole day was like that. It's
Right.
like,
And that's like
no.
immediate, and you have to like remind yourself when you look at someone else's stuff,
Hmm.
like, hey, when I do that, I I know that's only 1 second of my day. I have
Hmm.
to remember that that's only 1 second of their day,
Hmm.
right? And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know about you, but like I'm not posting a screaming video of my child. I don't wanna do that.
I'm like, sometimes I might, but no.
I mean,
But
maybe I
no,
should, but then I'm
no,
like,
I
then
know.
they're gonna think I got a psycho kid, so it's like, I don't know.
No,
Do we
I
ever
know.
win?
Well, all right. So let's move into the highlight of the show, Bump Date. So, Gabrielle, can you walk us through the inspiration behind creating the Bump Date app and how it evolved into the platform for connecting friends and family during pregnancy and parenthood?
Yeah, so I had a few friends trying to conceive and going through struggles, each individually. And miraculously, we all got pregnant within months of each other. And um, of course, at that time, the COVID-19 pandemic hit, and that kind of flipped everything on its head. All our hopes and dreams of like the collaboration and joy of our first pregnancies were stripped away, really. And we'd text each other repeatedly and ask, how far along are you again? And it felt crazy to ask the same question week after week. And Tyler, my sister-in-law and now business partner, we got she got pregnant 4 months after me, and that was the greatest gift I could have ever wished for. Um, like literally going through pregnancy together was such a dream, and it's like a bond like no other. I feel that even through to our kids, they're best friends now.
Mhm.
And we were in a place where we desperately wanted to remember how far along each other were and our friends, and be more intentional about how and when we checked in on one another. And that was like really the start of it. It was just like, hey, do you like, we're all in this phase of life right now. There's pregnancy tracker apps everywhere to track yourself, but none that help you remember how far along your friend is. And, we just started asking people, like, is this something you would care about? Like, do you care to know how far along your friend is, or when their anatomy scan is, or when they hit their 20-week mark, or they're entering the third trimester, or when their due date is? And overwhelmingly, the response was like, yes, we do care about this and would want to check in. And then it just grew from there. It was like, okay, well, what about if you have an existing kid, and what about their birthday and how old they are? And for an expecting individual, their pregnancy, maybe we add their registry in there, so you can easily access it, or where they're giving birth, so you can send a gift, different things. And we so it really came out of the pandemic, uh, the need for social support. And social support's just like a new fancy term for saying check in on your friends. And Tyler and I felt the value of that so much when we were pregnant, especially with our first, because like, and especially if you're having a hard time trying to conceive, because then by the time you do get pregnant, it is so precious. And like, it just feels like every day and every week is such a milestone, and it's so exciting. And you've never done it before, so it's like, okay, is that flutter normal? Is that a kick? Is that, and having someone to talk to about that stuff, it just feels so good.
And it is the perfect combination of everything that like, everyone needs, but that there isn't. And I'm just thinking back to, because we were saying we basically had the same pregnancy experience in COVID, which was very lonely. And you are like, trying to figure out, I joined a due date group, which was very helpful for my, social, I guess, meter to be filled, because we were all doing, November, of just girls kind of from across the country, which was great. But with my friends, you kind of just assume you're gonna know when. Well, oh yeah, they're like do this date around this time. Like I'm not sure exactly. And you don't want to ask them every time, so that's
Mhm.
the perfect solution to it.
Yeah, and there's almost like a weird distance between friends if you're not in it with them, because it's like it's hard to remember how to be there for a friend if you're like out of it. But if you have a reminder that's like, oh, they just entered the second trimester, it's like, oh, let me reach out. It's not like you mean, say you're on your third kid and someone's on their first, like
Mhm.
you're in a different mindset. Or say you're the single friend and you have a best friend who has, who's pregnant with her first, and you want to be there for her. It's like you may not be in that phase of life. So we're just trying to create a tool to help the village remember when to check in. So
Yeah.
I would say that we created the tool that we needed as pregnant people, first time pregnant people during the pandemic. And, as we continue to develop the app, we ask ourselves that all the time is, would I have wanted this, or would I have benefited from this feature while I was pregnant or a new mom at that time? It was very helpful to be pregnant again very recently and have a different lens on it, through my second pregnancy. And we just want to, we are our own users, right? So
Hmm.
like, we're like, what would help a pregnant person right now
Right.
in their experience? And we, as I've discussed before, have a huge emphasis on preventing pregnant and postpartum users from feeling alone.
Hmm.
And we just want to support these people the way that we wanted and wished to be supported during that time.
Yeah, and so could you discuss the importance of the community support during pregnancy and parenthood and how the Bump Date app fosters the sense of community in that to kind of give it like another, I guess, level?
Yeah, so pregnant and postpartum women are actually at a statistically higher risk of experiencing mental health challenges like prenatal and postpartum depression and anxiety. And research actually shows that emotional support from family, friends, and peers does contribute to reducing the risk of experiencing those mental health challenges. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with our app is connect them with their village and people who will check in on them and say, hey, how's it going? Hey, I was thinking about you. And those simple things make people feel like they're connected and not as isolated or alone or that somebody cares about them. And in turn, creates this social support for them, that we're hoping will help them out with their mental
Yeah.
health.
And the community
And
aspect too is so, so important. I feel like Instagram, TikTok, even Pinterest have been places where we have really connected like on an individual level with a lot of our users. We
Mm-hmm.
put out blog content every week, and some of it is from micro influencers. Sometimes it's influencers, sometimes bloggers, sometimes just our friends or regular people that have barely any following at all. It's that's not, necessarily the point. It's about kind of giving diverse putting out diverse stories through our community and through our blog so that everyone feels heard in some way and less alone. So, I shared earlier, that I had a daughter 2 weeks old with RSV. There's people who have had traumatic birth stories. There's people who have experienced losses. There's, um, same sex couples who have a surrogate that they're working with and they want to share their story. Um, we had a celebrity surrogate share hers. And it's like, you never know really what part of the story is going to inspire the reader or help them through their particular personal struggle that they're currently coping with. I mean, even Tyler just mentioned she's dealing with sleep regression right now with her 7-month-old, but she also has a 3-year-old. So it's like, the community, the village of women, we're not the first ones who have ever done this. And to share their stories, to be vulnerable, to learn from the mountains that other moms have climbed before us helps us through our own. And I think the goal really for our blog, which is on our app also, it's like on the homepage, you can access that or through our website. And through links on like our Instagram and everything. But we really try to cover such a variety of topics. I have a speech pathologist who's putting together like awesome tips of how to talk to a baby and how to encourage your toddler to get talking. There's, we've had doulas on, all kinds of things. And it's just really to provide that wide sense of support and friendship for our users. Bump date isn't so much of, if you don't have a village, connect with a village, but, it's more of like connect with your village and have, you're sharing such personal information about yourself. It's really about allowing your village to be a great support system for you. But we feel like our blog and the community that we're creating around social media and all of those layers fill that other gap of if you don't have the support that you want in your immediate village, we'll be that for you in
Mhm.
other ways.
That's amazing. So have you had any like specific, maybe like heartwarming stories or testimonials based on all of the stuff that you guys have, created to ensure that people are finding their place in pregnancy and postpartum, that you can share that has maybe impacted their life?
I can share that we had this one woman that we connected with, and she is a professor, and she teaches, about maternal health and how we can use technology to improve maternal health and child health outcomes. And she, we reached out to her and asked her to write a blog post because all of her work and research and articles were talking about like how there was a need for something like this. And she, said, this is exactly what people need, because right now people, especially living in the United States, don't have their aunts and moms and grandparents like living with them and
Hmm.
helping to raise children together, and that it's actually like very unnatural that we're so isolated in our parenthood and postpartum and pregnancy and that whole journey, and that it's just like never happened before. But that's just kind of what the culture is right now for us. And, she just was giving us a lot of information and actual data proving why something like this would be successful. So, we have like reviews and feedback from our users on the app. But I would say that that was probably an extremely valuable story and piece of information for us as a business and a brand trying to do this, having a literal doctor, professor saying, I've spent my whole life doing research like this, and, you know, I'm in full support of what you're doing, and this will make a difference. So that was like an awesome, awesome experience for us.
No, that's amazing. And I grew up around the corner from my grandparents and my aunt, and like we were literally within like a couple blocks, and we just always thought that's how everybody kind of lived their life. And so, during pregnancies and postpartum, it was just like everyone was at everybody's house, and you just kind of like made you had the village.
Hmm.
And, that this is just such a great way to, most people don't have, like you just said, their families aren't living that close to them anymore. And to find that support and to be recognized by research and information is really so important. Um, so while you were building this, did you guys come up with the idea while you guys were both pregnant together, or was it more that, Gabrielle, you kind of thought of it first, and then Tyler, you got pregnant and you're like, wait, let's make this a thing? How did you guys figure that all out while you guys were pregnant and postpartum and create this amazing thing in the mix of all of the other craziness of life?
It's crazy. Tyler, fact check me if my timeline's off because I feel like I blacked out, but
I don't know like what day it is or what year things happened,
I'm
but
like, yeah, I'm like, how long has it been? Um,
I know.
yeah, I think so the idea came to me when I was like close to 20 weeks pregnant with my first. And I had a dear friend who experienced terrible loss at 20 weeks, and she um ended up getting pregnant again, and she um was just behind me in that pregnancy that I was having with my first. And I remember thinking and having like such a heavy heart for her because I was approaching my anatomy scan, and I knew that's when things took such an awful turn for her. And I knew I just did not want to forget that date for her. And I also not only did not want to forget that date for her, but I also wanted to just be thoughtful throughout the rest of her pregnancy, as I was going through it just a few weeks before her, thinking like, wow, these are big milestones. Like, I'm doing my glucose test. I'm nervous. I have to go back. Like, if the heart rate looks a little wonky, or they see a little um thing that looks off, and you're going to MFM, maternal fetal medicine, to make sure everything's okay. It's just such a scary time,
Mhm.
especially when it's your first baby, because you just don't have the confidence of doing it before. So anyway, she was such a big inspiration for me. I feel like with Bump Date, I will always say that. And I just felt like it made me so aware of just infertility, loss, struggle, and how precious pregnancy and childbirth and motherhood and parenthood is. So that was like around that time. She was a part of my crew that there was like literally 5 of us. Like, my son's December. We have another one. It's January, February. I think March is skipped, and then 2 in April, including Tyler's, and then May. It was just the craziest thing because everyone was like on such unique journeys that, I mean, like 5 years, you know, all kinds of things. So anyway, that seed was planted then. I was working full time for a tech education company running operations for my North American team. I actually loved it. It was, I always say this, but it really taught me how to use technology to solve problems. And it taught me a lot that I carried over into what I'm doing now. So I was on maternity leave. My son was born in December 2020. I went on maternity leave and really like started thinking about it seriously during that. I was wireframing it and meeting, interviewing developers and kind of like sketching it out and stuff. And then I got it to somewhat of a place, and I went back to work, and Tyler was working, or Tyler was going back to work too, because at that time she was postpartum as well. She had her baby in April and then went back May, June, July, in I guess August, July or August. Um, and then I left in October my job and committed full time to Bump Date in 2021. A week
Wow.
later, I found out I was pregnant with my second, and really developed a huge part of the app during that. And Tyler, do you remember the date you left your job for Bump Date? Or like the
I think
month?
it may have been August.
Yeah. So we would like talk about it a lot, and Tyler was such a huge supporter of me during those early days, those early months, like even while she was still committed to Penn and doing epidemiology, cancer research, and in the hospital. I would still bug her with questions and, you know, the app designs and stuff. And I'm like, do you think this would be good? And blah, blah, blah. And she was just like, she was so in it the whole time. And eventually, I think the summer was over. She wasn't feeling fulfilled where she was at. I was kind of capping out on my energy for what I was doing. I was feeling like so much mom mode and just wanting to bring Bump Date to life and really feeling it in like every part of my being. And she did too. And I was just like, you know, do you want to just do this full time and commit ourselves to it? And then that was that. And then she really spearheads, I would say, the community growth, like, and that I don't like creative aspect on how to bring all of those diverse stories and situations into the blog and into the app. But also, I don't know, we are such a tag team. Like, I don't know, she's like my work husband. We just like pick up where the other leaves off, and
Mhm.
it's just a really, I don't know, it's like a dream working together. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Oh my
that's
gosh. Yeah. Hopefully I will be able to kind of do the same as you guys are, which is amazing. I love that you guys just kind of like thought of something and just went with it. That's, you know, such a, it's probably so scary, especially having new babies, to just leave a job and then just start something completely new in the midst of postpartum, which most people probably wouldn't do out of just fear. So that's something to be really proud of, that you guys built all that again in the midst of just having babies, which is great.
yeah, it was harsh.
It helps that Gabs knows coding, that's for sure.
Yeah, that I'm sure. As I'm thinking, I mean, literally, I would have no idea how to even start an app. But I guess if you do have a little, a lot of, you know, background in it, that is probably very helpful. So
No,
that's
it's
amazing.
a little, but yeah, it is helpful. But yeah, juggling that with is motherhood is definitely hard.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, so as you mentioned, this was a passion project during your maternity leave. How did you really balance the motherhood with entrepreneurship during this time?
Um, it was hard. It was really hard. I got the most supportive husband in the world in all kinds of ways. Really, without him, this dream of helping other moms wouldn't be possible. My other ride or die is my sister-in-law and business partner, Tyler. Her and I have tag teamed through 2 pregnancies. I had 2 under 2 and she had 2 under 3. It was not easy, but it's also been the most fulfilling work we've ever done. Um, I try really hard to be open with other moms about this because I think we all struggle with our identities in some way after having children. My paycheck was once a big part of my self-worth, and between raising littles and being on this whole entrepreneurial journey, I've really had to work hard to feel that sense of accomplishment and worth in other ways.
Yeah, that's and how about you, Tyler, with kind of like doing very pretty much very similar, just one step behind. That's what you said, right? Like everything she does, you let her do it first, and then you commit to
Yeah. No, I love that because I just get to watch them like suffer a little bit and then I'm like, cool, I'm good now.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
like,
I'm kidding. I wish
"Great,
it was that easy.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
train wreck," and she's just, like, driving around it.
Yeah.
It's also like great that I get to watch like my brother go through it too first and then I'm like, you know.
Yeah, true. So how did you come to the decision to kind of step away from your job and to get in on board with it?
It was like the easiest decision ever. It was just like 100% hell yes. Like didn't even need to think twice about it. It was the right thing. And, you know, any person who's had a kid can say like how much it just changes you and how much your
Mhm.
pregnancy changes you. And, you know, after being on maternity leave and going back for a few months and pumping and nursing and all that type of stuff. It was just like, I want to do something more in this, you know, mom baby world that I'm so immersed in right now and working with Gabs. And I've learned so much from her. Like, she's a coding nerd and like has taught me some things that I never in a million years would have like understood or known what to do or can't even believe that I can actually do something on the computer that she taught me, you know. Um, it's awesome, but it was really the easiest decision ever. It just felt right and it was the right thing. And a few years later, here we are, and we're still like very happy and committed to doing this.
That's awesome. So what are the future plans of the app? What do you have for development, for the future? What do you think upcoming features or expansions will be?
We're it's, like, so obsessive. It's, like, every time we're on it, just constantly trying to make it better and better and better, and, um, photo sharing is, like, an obvious one, of course,
Mhm.
in-app chat, meaningful reactions, it's like raise a hand to help or, send a hug or just, like, something, that feels a little bit more in line with our messaging and branding and what people need. Um, there's a shop section that's coming out soon. We've been working hard on that. We always say, your friends are your biggest influencers, and it's true. It's like when I reach out, I'm like, I don't go to Google first when I'm deciding on a new baby product or toddler product. It's like I'm hitting up my mom friends and
Mhm.
I wanna know and you kind of, like, start to figure out, like, which mom friend to go to for what.
Yeah.
So, it's cool. It's like, oh, that one's like a rock star traveler with kids. This one has, an adorable nursery. This one, like I love her stroller or something, So you go to different people for different things, and so this shop section where we really want to bring that to life as far as like what our community recommends and your friends recommend and all of that, and then personalized notifications is kind of one of our favorites. We're putting a lot of time and effort into that because there's so many different scenarios. It's like if you're part of the village and your friend is expecting, what reminders do you need when and how do you say it to encourage that support that that individual would likely appreciate, and then it's also if you are the one expecting, we want Bumsy to feel like we're in your village and we're part of your tribe and we want to give you those encouraging affirmations and reminders and feels if nobody else is saying them to you. We want you to know that to be easy on yourself when you're hitting some of your hardest weeks, and to give yourself grace at certain times. So even like you hit the 40-week mark, you're losing it. So it's like, what do you need to hear from a friend if you're between 40 weeks and 41 weeks, So we're really digging into that personalization factor and just trying to make the app come alive in that sense. And, we keep saying social support, mental health, all of that. And we are digging into ways to be more of that for people. It's also a big priority for us to take care of the moms who've experienced loss or, are dealing with infertility. We're not there yet. If you are struggling with infertility, you could share your appointments in your profile with your village. If you have an IUI or an embryo transfer, anything like that you want to share with your village, you could certainly do that. But from the loss standpoint, we're not covering that yet, but it's definitely on our roadmap. We're very aware that 1 in 4 pregnancies end in miscarriage, and that is a big number. And we know a large portion of our community is affected by loss. So, maybe a way to honor your losses within your profile, if that's something you want to do and you want to share with your village. So, maybe there's a particular date that stands out to you that you really want to never forget. And if your village reached out to you, then you'd appreciate it. We're not sure 100% yet. We have to really figure that out, but that's definitely that it's on our mind, just how else can we be that social support for our community.
That's awesome. That sounds so I'm sure you guys, as you're saying that, I'm like, oh yeah, they could do this, they could do that. That's, so you're just going to change and help so many lives, I feel, though, with this. Um, so, so you guys have, given us so much information, and I'm so excited for our listeners to check out the app. But how can they get involved with the Bump Date app, the community, and where can they find more information about the platform?
You can find us on the App Store and Google Play. You could just search Bump Date, and the app's free entirely, free to download. And you could also find us on Instagram at Bump Date app, and TikTok and Pinterest. We're super active on all those platforms. And like I mentioned before, we push out blogs once a week. So join our newsletter on our website to get emails. Those stories are so inspiring, and Tyler and I are so fulfilled when we, meet people in all different ways of life, like, through social media, through just, at a doctor's appointment, just stopping a pregnant person as she's walking down the street. I don't know, literally in all types of ways, sitting in the waiting room at the doctor's office, striking a conversation. We've had just like so many amazing guest writers. So definitely check out those blog stories too, because they're amazing.
And if anybody wants to be a guest blogger, you can just reach out to us on our website or our Instagram. You can just DM us, and we would love to share your story.
That's great. All right. Well, I think that's a perfect way to end it. So that's going to bring us to the end of another episode of The Running Wine Mom. A huge thank you to Gabrielle and Tyler for sharing their incredible journey and the inspiring story behind the Bump Date app. Remember, parenthood is a journey best traveled with a strong support system by your side. Whether you're navigating pregnancy, the early stages of parenthood, or beyond, the Bump Date app is here to help you stay connected, informed, and supported every step of the way. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. And be sure to check out the Bump Date app to join their growing community of parents and supporters. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember, you are strong, you are capable, and you are all amazing. Until next time, keep running, keep sipping, and keep embracing the joy of motherhood. Thank you, girls, so much for coming and being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, Samantha.
This was wonderful. Cheers, and I will be back next Tuesday.